It's no surprise that Fox News has immediately flipped on John Bolton. They have declared him an unhinged leftist who is basically doing the bidding of the Democratic Party. Now, this follows the release of some of the excerpts of his book, where he was concerned about Trump's extortion of Ukraine. Now, let me note that I am not a fan of John Bolton. I massively dislike John Bolton. So to me, this is a bit cathartic, right? I look at this and I'm like, mm, love it. So now let me get into a mashup here of hosts Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, and Lou Dobbs, who decided on their respective shows to go after Trump's former national security advisor, right? Who was a paid Fox News contributor, by the way, for the last 11 years before joining Trump's White House back in 2018. So doesn't exactly have a history as a never Trumper. Nonetheless, let me give you some of their criticisms. Take a look.
The Bolton red herring. The resistance media went gaga when word leaked last night that John Bolton supposedly dropped a bombshell, a leaked secondhand account of his upcoming book.
His major donors are Romney supporters and, well, many of them never Trumpers. John Bolton himself has been reduced to a tool for the radical Dems and the deep state with his allegation.
Think back to 2016 in the campaign then. Donald Trump used to recite a poem about a woman who took a dying snake into her house and nursed it back to health. The snake did become healthy and then immediately whipped around and bit the woman. As she breathed her last breaths, the woman asked the snake, "Why did you do this?" "Well, because I'm a snake," was the reply. "That's what we do." All of which somehow reminds us of disgraced former National Security Advisor John Bolton.
Now they're acting like this is a big bombshell. Bolton's book. Okay, the problem is it's a New York Times story. How often does New York Times get things wrong?
Nothing that John Bolton writes in a book or would testify to, frankly, during the Senate trial changes the basic facts that all 100 senators know.
Bolton's book agency, Javelin, has published books by disgruntled current and former government officials such as, well, former fired FBI Director James Comey, the anonymous Trump administration official who wrote the book A Warning, and Cliff Sims, a former White House staffer who the president said broke a non-disclosure agreement to write a book bashing the White House.
But they shouldn't be shocked. That's who John Bolton is. That's who John Bolton has always been. That's what John Bolton does. And not to brag, we called it long ago.
Hilarious. Oh, that's so good. So good. Now, look, to be fair, Tucker Carlson is about the only one that's been really consistent. In fact, Laura Ingraham says, I like John Bolton. He's part of the show, or he's a great friend of the show. But, I mean, he's a neocon. He never should have been in Donald Trump's cabinet. Well, then why did Donald Trump pick him? It's because Donald Trump wanted to go to war with Venezuela. Guaranteed. If Juan Guaido would have actually succeeded in his coup attempt, Donald Trump would have been all over himself, slobbing all over himself, to get American oil interests and oil companies into Venezuela. That's why John Bolton was there. Let's be honest about that. But as far as Tucker Carlson, going back to him, again, Bolton has never met a war he didn't like. So now Tucker Carlson is actually anti-war. Now, he's anti-war for probably the wrong reasons, right? Mainly because he thinks Middle Easterners or Iraqis, for example, as he said famously before, are basically subhuman monkeys, and Palestinians love to live in their filth. That's what he says. Let's be honest. His reasons for being against the war, which, by the way, being against war is the right position, but he gets there through xenophobia, racism, and hatred. And so whenever we talk about Tucker Carlson, like, oh, he's anti-war, he's part of the anti-war movement, oh, that's wonderful, we should exalt Mr. Tucker Carlson. No. He gets there in the wrong way. He's a horrible person. He's not a good person at all. And so at least, though, the tiny amount of credit that he gets, at least he's consistent about hating John Bolton. Now, as far as the rest, Lou Dobbs, of course, Lou Dobbs does everything Donald Trump wants him to, does everything he can to kiss Donald Trump's ass. So I'm not surprised that he's going to go and point out the donors and then try to make some weird connection. Oh, look, he's got Romney. He was funded by Robert Mercer. The Mercers also funded Ted Cruz and then turned around later to fund Donald Trump. So come on, dude. Really? All right. But anyway, one more here. This is Dan Bongino, right? He on Twitter had a different take. He said, one, regarding Bolton, nobody cares. The aid was delivered. The Ukrainians aren't victims. Just ask them. The Democrats' corruption in Ukraine is real. And 5, nobody cares. Oh, okay. Right. Now, let me break that down. For one, nobody cares, right? Nobody cares about impeachment. Well, over half of all Americans polled actually want Trump impeached and removed over what he did in Ukraine. Turns out Americans actually do care about the Constitution. Now, as far as the second, the aid was delivered. Well, it was only delivered after Trump was caught by Congress and forced to release it. He also broke the Impoundment Control Act by not informing Congress that he was holding up this money because, well, he had no justification because it was all personal, political. The Ukrainians, by the way, just ask them. Well, they're at a massive power imbalance. They're afraid that if they challenge Trump, they weren't going to get any of that promised aid that they needed. They said they needed to keep the Russians from annexing the rest of their country like they did Crimea. So yeah, they're not gonna contradict the no pressure at all. Can we have the money, please? I mean, we kind of need it. Now, as far as the corruption by the Democrats, what corruption? I mean, other than of course the normal, we take money from large corporations. Oh wait, turns out the Republicans also do that. Weird. It's the one corruption they don't actually want to talk about. But no, look, Hunter Biden's corruption. Okay, it's real. He got paid $50,000 a month for not knowing anything about gas. That's basically the only good point that you guys can make. That said, is it personal corruption? Absolutely. Is it illegal? Unfortunately not. Because if it was illegal, then every member of Trump's family would also be facing charges on personal corruption. How most of Washington would be wiped out if we're talking about personal corruption and taking money for things that you don't actually have any, or trying to get influenced and taking this money by corporations in order to get influence on your father or whatever. Again, all you have to do is look in the White House when it comes to personal corruption. But no. Trump's efforts for his own personal corruption in order to win an election, that doesn't count. Got it. And by the way, did I mention over half of all half of all American voters want Donald Trump removed over this? Look, for somebody who thinks that nobody cares, he seems to care quite a bit. But all Fox News can do, by the way, is talk about how Bolton is a snake. Well, look, I'm not going to argue against that. I don't like John Bolton. Maybe you could say, well, hey, don't call him a snake because that's unfair to snakes, right? Don't use the name of an animal as an insult. Animals are innocent. Okay. But look, if you're going to go that route, I'm not going to fight against that. I think he is. I despise the man. But I do think it is hilarious how if you dare to question the Donald Trump cult, you become a pariah. It's kind of hilarious. And I'll be honest, it couldn't happen to a better example of a terrible human being. Bolton is one of the most, the grossest neocon ghouls to come out of the Reagan administration and to serve in every Republican administration since. His one go-to move is to do one disastrous war after another to start them. So I don't know at all feel bad for this guy. I don't, but I will tell you that as bad as Bolton is, he's actually not as bad as Mike Pompeo. Bolton loves his wars, and we know that. But Bolton, look, the difference is Pompeo believes in insane things, like the rapture. Like, he is a fundamentalist Christian. And I'm saying super dangerous kind of fundamentalist. And he's got power in this administration. And he's making a lot of the rules. So Bolton, as bad as he is actually saying, no, wait a minute here. For one, I don't get a war with Venezuela or North Korea. That sucks. But for two, Donald Trump seems to be breaking the law. Oh, I can't let that go. And so, here we go. I'm just going to put it in the book, which is kind of super weak sauce. But, there it is. All right. Anyway, back to look. If there's a choice between what terrible person I would rather have, Pompeo, or Bolton in the administration, I don't for one, don't make me make that choice. But if you're gonna say who's worse, it's definitely Mike Pompeo. You're not going to hear that on Fox News, by the way, unless Mike Pompeo admits that Trump attempted to pressure Ukraine. Because as we've seen, this is the Trump. This is the cult of Trump. The Republican Party is now. And one more thing here, going to liberals, if you're watching, right? I'm going to start breaking things if people start calling John Bolton a member of the resistance. Do not rehabilitate him. It was bad enough that they rehabilitated the image of George W. Bush. Do not rehabilitate John Bolton. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.